I had always considered myself a practical person, grounded in reality, and my faith was something I embraced in private, but it wasn't something I thought about every day because life was busy, filled with work, family, and the everyday routine, and it was easy to lose sight of anything beyond the moment. That was until the day everything changed. It started as a normal Tuesday, just like any other, when I woke up early, rushed through my morning routine, and got into the car, heading to work, with the sky clear, the roads empty, and nothing that indicated the profound shift that was about to take place in my life. I remember driving down the highway, the hum of the engine acting as a background noise that kept me focused, while my thoughts were a blur, consumed by work, plans for the future, and the little things that life demands, and I wasn't worried about anything as I was simply going through the motions. That's when it happened. I don't know what caused it. A split-second distraction or a momentary lapse in concentration. But the next thing I knew, a flash of lights blinded me as a car swerved directly into my lane, and I had no time to react, with the crash being so violent that it felt like time itself was suspended. My car spinning out of control, my body jerking against the seatbelt, and my head crashing against the window, everything going dark. In that instant, I thought I was done, as I could barely breathe, barely move, but I wasn't dead. Not yet, anyway, because I felt something, some strange sensation pulling me away from my broken body. And it wasn't fear that gripped me, but a strange sense of calm as I wasn't in pain anymore and wasn't even worried. I looked down at my body, slumped in the wreckage of the car with blood trickling down my forehead. And although the air around me was thick, I didn't feel suffocated, and the sirens wailed in the distance but felt so far away, like they belonged to a different world. I didn't know where I was, as everything was silent, still, but there was something else, something indescribable, and I felt a presence, as if the very air had changed, as though something divine was surrounding me, and it wasn't something I saw, but something I knew deep within me, and I didn't have to look to know that I was not alone. I began to float, no longer bound to the wreckage of the car, no longer tied to the pain of the world, and I was weightless, as if I were being carried by an invisible force, and it was peaceful, almost surreal, and for a moment, I forgot about the chaos that had just occurred, feeling like I was drifting, floating in an ocean of calm, free from the weight of the world. But then something pulled me gently but powerfully, and I found myself standing in the most extraordinary place I had ever seen, where the air was so pure it almost tasted sweet, and the sky above me was a brilliant, radiant blue, with the light that bathed the landscape not like anything I had ever seen before, as it wasn't harsh or artificial but warm, inviting and eternal, while the ground beneath my feet was soft, lush, and vibrant, almost as if the very earth was alive, and the grass was greener than anything I had ever seen, with the flowers that dotted the landscape seeming to shimmer with their own inner light. I could feel the presence of something, someone, nearby, though I could not see them yet, and the place felt familiar, as though I had been here before, but I had no memory of it, and I was overwhelmed by a sense of peace and wonder, feeling like I had been here for an eternity, and yet, it was as if time had stopped altogether. I took a step forward, trying to make sense of what was happening, and that's when I saw him. He was standing there, not far away, his presence so powerful and overwhelming that I could barely comprehend it, as he radiated light. Not in a way that was blinding, but in a way that was comforting, warm, and his eyes were full of compassion and understanding, with a gentleness in his gaze, yet a depth of wisdom that seemed to transcend anything I could fathom. For a moment, I couldn't speak, wanting to, but no words came, and all I could do was stare, filled with awe, knowing without a doubt who he was, and there was no mistaking it, as he was the one I had heard about all my life. The Lord, the Creator, the Savior, and he was the reason for everything, and now he was here before me. "Come," he said, his voice soft yet commanding. Not a voice I heard with my ears, but one I heard with my soul. "And I have come to show you what awaits you, but only if you are willing to walk this path." I didn't understand what he meant as I was standing in this beautiful place, but it wasn't home, and while it was perfect, it didn't feel like I belonged here, and my thoughts raced, wondering what I was supposed to do, how I could stay, and what about my life, my family, my work. I looked around at the beauty, the peace, and I felt a deep longing to remain here, as I had no pain, no fear, no worries, with everything being perfect, but at the same time, something in me stirred, a sense of responsibility, an awareness that I wasn't finished. "I'm not ready," I wanted to say. I have so much left to do. The voice spoke again, calm and understanding, saying, "You are not alone in this world. There is much for you to do, but know this. Everything will be made clear to you when the time is right. You are not forgotten." And then, in that moment, something shifted. I felt myself being pulled away, gently at first, but with increasing force, and the peaceful landscape, the warm light, the eternal sense of peace. All of it began to fade. I tried to hold on, tried to reach out, but the force pulling me back was too strong, and I felt myself descending, falling through darkness, until I was suddenly aware of the world again. Pain. The sharp, stabbing pain of my body crashing back into reality hit me like a wave, and I gasped for air, my lungs burning, my head pounding with an intensity one hadn't felt before. Finding myself back in the wreckage, surrounded by the twisted metal of the car, with blood dripping from my forehead, and the sirens being close now, with voices shouting and hands pulling at me, trying to help me, but it all seemed so distant, so far away. I couldn't comprehend what had just happened, as I had been somewhere beyond the physical world, and I had seen the truth, felt the presence of the divine, and now I was back, but changed, not knowing how or why, but understanding that something profound had occurred, as I wasn't just alive. I was different. I could hear the paramedics now, their frantic voices cutting through the fog of my thoughts, and while I wanted to respond, to tell them I was okay, I couldn't, as my body was not yet ready to function as it should, and instead, all I could do was lie there, my mind racing, replaying the moment when I had stood before him, when I had felt that presence. I didn't know what the future held or when my time would truly come, but I understood something in that moment. Death was not the end, but a transition, a part of a larger plan, and I had seen a glimpse of what lay beyond the veil. I would never be the same again, and as the ambulance rushed me to the hospital, my heart was filled with a strange sense of peace, knowing now that I wasn't alone, as I had seen the truth, had glimpsed the eternal, and would carry that with me always. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid, and although the world was full of uncertainty, I knew that beyond it all, there was something greater waiting. A plan, a purpose, a truth that no one could take away, and that knowledge gave me peace. I wasn't ready to die yet. I had more to do, but whenever that moment came, I would be prepared because I had seen what awaited me, and I knew that no matter what, I would never be alone.